The best thing that I learned in jazz school that I think I figured out too late, I wasn't great at it in jazz school, but I studied with John Clayton, who's still like, my dude, like love that guy to death, and he kind of just taught me how to like work at something until it was good. You know what I mean? And like that, I think was the big kind of takeaway from school. It was like not learning how to play bass, but learning how to figure things out.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 102 of the Bass Shed podcast. My name is Ryan Roberts. What's up, everybody? I want to give a little recap about the Bass Shed Academy launch party that I had been talking about. That happened January 7th at Lemur Music. That was this past weekend on Saturday. That was a great event. That was a great event. Some families came out. Some young bass players got involved. One student had a lesson earlier that day. Each of us instructors, we talked a little bit about ourselves. We did some playing. The instructor, Chris Hornung, played a wonderful piece by Francois Rabath. Me and Marlon Martinez played a jazz duo. We played a jazz standard as duo together. Marlon Martinez then did a solo piece. His arrangement of the standard I Hear a Rhapsody, which was fantastic. Overall, just a great hang. We hung out, had some food, talked bass, all of it. It was really, really cool. Other news related to the Bass Shed Academy. By the time this episode comes out, the new website will be live. The new website is thebassshedacademy.org. That will have information about the Lessons at Lemur program. That will have information about remote lessons. That will have information about the group classes that we're starting. The first group class that will be launched is a class titled Working Pro, led by Mike Viseglia. For podcast listeners, you may remember Mike Viseglia from episode 98 of the Bass Shed podcast. Him and I curated this course and it was mainly him, that deals with all the things that bass players don't learn in school about the occupation of playing the bass and being a freelance musician. So it's all the stuff that that schooling doesn't teach you, that private lessons don't even really teach you. This is things I think we've all kind of sorted out our own way by learning the hard way and a series of maybe hard knocks. But we kind of put all this information together and started looking at it and organizing it in an approach and in a way that is very approachable. And it covers all kinds of aspects of being a freelance musician and a freelance bassist, not only on a personal level and a professional level. The personal level being like how to deal with mental health, how to deal with rejection, how to deal with complaining about your gig. I'm serious. This is part of it. When Mike and I were talking about this, we're like, dude, we all know that most of the time we're gonna have something to say. We're gonna have something to say about the gig, and so we need to talk about that. Who you vent to, and having like kind of a support system of people that are safe, that aren't gonna influence your job on the gig. We talk about things like that. We talk about potentially starting, a business for how to deal with your taxes, how to deal with being an accountant, your own accountant, and managing your finances as a freelancer. Not only things like that, talk about audition preparation. Obviously, we're going to talk about bass gear. We're going to talk about tools and resources that are available and how to use them. We're going to talk about how to learning tunes, how to chart tunes, all kinds of things necessary for the freelancer. So I will be talking more about that, but that is the first course that is going to be released. I'm excited about that. I have some other group classes coming up. Later on. Let's just say later on. I don't know when that's really going to happen because I got a bunch of things on my plate right now. But later on. So all that is happening with the Bass Shed Academy. And again, that new website will be up, thebassshedacademy.org. All right, I got to take a second and give a personal shout out to Hunter Copeland. Hunter wrote me a very, very sweet email last week, and I haven't had a chance to reply to the email yet, and I will, Hunter, if you're listening, I will reply to the email, and I wanted to publicly thank you. It was a very sweet message, just letting me know that he enjoyed the podcast. He was looking forward to, hearing more about my album as it comes out. I love hearing feedback from people. It's fantastic. Let's put it this way: I love hearing good feedback. Like, if you're just chiming in to vent at me, yeah, don't. No, that's not true. Let me know what you're thinking, folks. Let me know. I'm interested. It all has value. Bring it on. Go back to this. Hunter, thank you so much. I do appreciate that. I will email you back. I will. It's been a lot going on. All right, on the topic of my album, jeez, man, this thing just seems never ending, doesn't it? Doesn't it just seem like it's taking forever? I was in the studio yesterday, and we got, boom, it's done. One tune's in the can. A tune called Nocturne. I think that's what I'm calling it. I don't know. We'll see what actually gets printed, on the playlist when the record comes out. I'm pretty sure it's just going to be titled Nocturne. Right now, here's some insider information. Right now, the tune, so right now the tune is called Sunday's Nocturne. Right? I wrote it at night, and that night was Sunday, years ago. So whatever, I just titled the tune Sunday's Nocturne. Sundays? I think it's just Sunday Nocturne. So that's but then I started looking at like all the tunes that I have for the album, and too many of them start with the letter S. All right, it would not be a proper podcast intro if I did not talk more about Lemur Music. I'm honored to have partnered with them for everything related to the Bass Shed Academy and the Lessons at Lemur program. In addition, stop by lemurmusic.com. Everything you need for the double bass. They actually just got some really cool shirts in. I was down there, and T hooked me up with his shirt. 1, love free clothing. 2, it's a very cool shirt. Stop by their website, lemurmusic.com, for everything you need for the double bass and shirts. Not everything you need for shirts. Everything you need for the double bass, and then like a shirt. Like there's one shirt. So, but check out the shirt. lemurmusic.com. All right, on the episode is double bassist and electric bassist Erik Kertes. This is an episode I've been looking forward to for a long time. I've known Erik. I can't remember how I met Erik. But I know it was really, really close to the time I got to LA. And I don't remember how I met him, actually. I want to say one of two ways. Either I met him through a guitar store that a friend of mine was working at and teaching at the time, or I met him through a drummer. I can't remember if I met him through the guitar store people or if I met him through a drummer named Matt Mayhall. I don't know. But it was super early on to when I got to LA, and yeah, I feel like I've known him. He's been part of my LA time. Yeah, I've known him pretty much the whole time I've been here, and so he's always doing amazing things. Erik, the USC guy, studied with John Clayton at USC. We'll talk a little bit about that. After graduating there, did some touring with Sarah Gazarek, then Josh Kelly. Not too long after that, he was working and touring with Shakira. Around this time, like, I'm not reading his resume right now. I'm just going through what I know about Erik. I forgot what he was up to during that middle time. It was probably just touring a lot. I know he's been in Michael Buble's band and doing some touring with Buble for a while, and he's going to speak to that. And actually does drop the dates when he landed the Buble gig and how that came to be. And so maybe it's then. Maybe it's right around, when he kind of fell off. Like, me mentally just kind of keeping track of musicians and what they're up to. not in an obsessive way. In a, you just know who on the scene is doing what. One of those things. And I lost track of him for a little bit. And I'm pretty sure that's when he picked up the Buble gig. He's been doing that. He's been doing that since. He's also very passionate about songwriting and production, and we'll talk about that and some opportunities that facet of the music career has afforded him. Thankfully, Erik and I had the time to finally connect on the podcast here. I know that he had a pretty busy last several months touring with Buble. Michael Buble's piano player, Roy Dunlap, is a good friend of mine. And every time Roy comes off the road and Roy and I go grab a drink or something, like there's usually going to be a text to Erik Kertes about it. So here it is. Here's my talk with electric bassist, double bassist, producer, and songwriter Erik Kertes.
Hi, can you hear me?
Dude, what's up?
What's up, my man? How are you?
I'm all right, man. It's been like, what, 15 years?
It's been a really long time.
Yeah, it's been a really long time, man. How you been?
You look exactly the same.
No, I don't. Check out all this great, dude. I've aged like 50 years.
I feel the same way.
Ah,
that's what the pandemic has done.
Yeah, right?
Us, you know?
What session were you doing yesterday or the other day? Was that yesterday?
What session was I doing? I was doing a session with didn't you know this guy Travis Howard? He's like
the name sounds familiar.
He's like a pop country. He like wrote all of Miranda Lambert's hit songs, and he's
sick.
Yeah.
Dope.
Yeah.
Are they all in Nashville or are they out here?
No, he's out here. Yeah,
okay.
A lot of Nashville folk out here now. It's crazy.
Really? I'm kind of out of the scene. I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah, it's like I don't know. I feel like everyone in LA is moving to Nashville, and everyone in Nashville is moving to LA.
Yeah.
Everyone's like searching for
something else. Yeah.
Making any sense of the music world, you know?
But you stayed. Did you consider leaving? Because I know a lot of road guys dipped out. They're just like, the tours aren't here. I don't need to be here.
Over the pandemic?
Yeah.
It's tough. Like, I grew up here, so it's like,
oh, that's right. Yeah.
My folks are here and they're getting old, and my daughter's here. And
how old is she now?
She's 4.
Wow.
Yeah. So I love I was just having this conversation yesterday where it's like, yeah, the idea of moving somewhere inexpensive and all that like is so appealing, but it's like, where are you gonna go? It's like you kind of pay a premium for Los Angeles for a reason, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, it's a luxury environment, not only geographically, but like the scene.
Yeah, it's
kind of a luxury.
Totally. I mean, yeah, it's great. What about you? How have you been?
I'm good, man. Yeah, good.
Basin, I know you know Roy.
Yeah, I do know.
That's awesome.
Roy's great, man.
He's great.
Yeah, I remember when he was shedding for that gig. Guy was so serious. He wouldn't talk about it. He was.
Oh yeah.
He was acting like he was an athlete training, which was really inspiring. I'm like, dude, you got it, man. You got it. Let's go grab a beer. No, man, I gotta.
That's so funny.
He was dialed in.
How'd you meet Roy?
I met him playing with another singer that does a similar bit, but obviously not to that level. A dude named Chris Norton, who Roy had played with a lot in New York. And then I met them both on a gig out here. Chris hired me for his band, kind of on the spot. And then Roy and I just became cool.
That's great.
Yeah, that's fun.
Love that.
Yeah. What have you been up to, man? You've been on the road thing. You've been doing the road since basically I met you.
Yeah, it's been about 20 years. I've been on.
Who was the first one? Patrick. What was his last name?
Patrick Park.
Yeah.
Patrick was definitely in there. I think the first road gig I had was right out of college with Sarah Gazarek. She was like a jazz singer.
Yeah.
And we were touring like, she was doing well at the time. That was like 2005, 2004, 2005.
Okay.
And then from there, I left her band and started playing with this guy named Josh Kelly.
That's who it was.
Yeah.
I met you around then. Okay.
Yeah, I was on the road with Josh forever. He's great. He's still one of my best friends. He's awesome. He's just
And you
great dude.
co-wrote some of that stuff too,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, he was like, he's the guy that kind of taught me how to like. I always would like write songs and whatever, but like I was never really comfortable. You know what I mean? Like collaborating on anything. And he was the guy who like really pulled me out of my shell and was just like, dude, you have to write. Like
Really?
wrote we wrote a ton of songs together, and he like taught me how to co-write. You know, and kind of forced me to. He even like got me a publishing deal in Nashville.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, this guy is just salt of the earth dude. But like, yeah,
Sick.
he was all about collaborating at all times, and like I was so uncomfortable doing that. He made me just
So
like,
what kind of things did you learn through that process?
well, he would do something like we'd sit down and like write something, and I'd be like, okay, well, I'll be like music guy, and like here's a chord progression,
Right.
and he'll and he was always like, no, simpler, like don't make me like don't have the chords dictate what the melody is. Let the melody dictate what the chords are. That was a big takeaway I learned from him. And then he'd do things like, okay, cool, go write a second verse and then like come back tomorrow. And I'm like, you want
The
me
lyrics?
second verse? Oh, like
Yeah.
that was totally,
Who did you go to draw from? Like who were your lyric people?
I mean, I'm such a lyric nerd, and now I am. But actually, no, I guess I always was. So when I was in jazz school, this is super nerdy.
Dude, what are we doing? This whole thing we're doing right now is super
right.
nerdy.
We're into the interview already, right?
Probably,
okay,
yeah.
Cool. I wasn't sure if we were going to be like, okay,
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
So when I was in jazz school, I created a class with Shelley Berg, who was like the head of the jazz program at the time. And the class was like studying lyrics and
of jazz tunes and
jazz songs,
American
like it wasn't
stuff.
Yeah, not necessarily like cheesy. He's putting lyrics to Coltrane solos, but like amazing, beautiful songs that have these beautiful, timeless lyrics.
Sure.
And Shelley really showed me like I was supposed to like come in and analyze the lyrics, and he would kind of show me like, cool, but like this is how it relates to what's going on in the music.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like little dumb things like I don't know, how strange the change from major to minor. To a minor chord there, like, you know what I mean? What song is that? It'll come to me in a second. Can't remember the title. Anyway, I'm blanking.
Yeah.
But just stuff like that, where it's just like he kind of really made he made me conscious of like how intentional lyrical content needs to coincide with the musical thing. Like,
okay,
they have to have a relationship to each other. And that was like a really cool eye-opening thing. It's not just like, oh, here's a cool thing to say over some cool riff. It's like
right.
They need to talk, they need to like marry each other in a cool way.
Yeah. Although there's been people with amazing careers that have just done, cool words over a riff.
Yeah,
like
totally.
that can happen too. I remember Shirley Berg doing a master class in Arizona when I was in high school. And he said something that I still think about, which is like every music has a groove. Yeah. And he wasn't necessarily just talking about rhythmic vocabulary or syncopations or something, but like really the spirit, and everything has a groove and a specific vocabulary. And he was very intentional about all that stuff.
Yeah.
In that masterclass. That's something that I remember him saying that really stuck out with me.
Yeah, he was. I mean, he's such a great educator. He's just like, he knows how to explain stuff. Because that's kind of the weird thing about music, right? It's just like, it's just kind of this like sound that provokes emotion, and it's like that whole kind of idea about like talking about music,
right?
And it feels like whatever. It's just so arbitrary, but there are some people who have a really beautiful way of doing it.
Yeah. So who are your lyric people that when you had to write a second verse with Josh? Did you go back to Dylan? Did you pull out Led Zeppelin? Like, where'd you go?
I mean, at that time I was super into. Like, of course, the classics like I grew up on the Beatles and all
Okay.
that because of my parents. But I got really into, funny enough, like towards the end of jazz school, and kind of when I was graduating from jazz school, and I was kind of having this like midlife crisis of like, well, I just went to school for 4 years for jazz. I don't even know if I like jazz.
Yeah.
And I remember like at the time, like Brad Mehldau was like really into doing. I went and saw Brad Mehldau play at Largo, and he didn't play a single jazz standard, and it was all cool, like
Radiohead, Beatles.
Yeah, Radiohead, yeah. And Elliott Smith was a really big one for me.
Okay,
and and it was good enough for Brad Mehldau. And so Elliott was kind of this guy that, like, in my opinion, like, just kind of married folk with complex harmony.
Yeah.
I don't want to say jazz harmony because that's, whatever. But like, upper level, more than just a 1, 5, 6 minor 4 chord progression. Right. So I went down a huge Elliott Smith thing for years.
Okay.
Totally, like, right when I graduated from college, and just he kind of changed me in a way that was just like helped me kind of find the music that I loved, you know what I mean? Because I wasn't sure at that time, because I grew up on like punk rock, and then I went to like an Arts Magnet high school for jazz, and I kind of went down the jazz hole. It's like, if you're going to study music, it's like, it's different now, but at the time I was like, well, you either study jazz or classical. And I was like, not classical, so I guess it's jazz.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's ironic that I did this whole, escape from jazz for so long. And then, funny enough, when the Michael Buble audition came up, like, I ended up getting that gig, which is still a pop gig, but you obviously have to have a background in jazz.
Yeah.
To make that a thing,
Yeah. It's a nice, I think. I mean, I know the dude that I met Roy on.
Yeah.
Has a very similar book to Buble.
Right.
And it's like jazzy enough, like
totally.
You have to play upright, half the show?
At this point, I probably play upright on 4 songs in the show.
Oh, just ballads?
In a 2-hour show.
Yeah.
Like, I play, I'll do it on like, a couple, we do like one instrumental jazz tune, just the big band. And then we'll do, Cry Me a River, and,
sure.
I can't even think of the other ones. A couple more.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm Feeling Good, of course. Sure. Everything else on electric bass,
Okay.
And which is great. I love, electric bass, and upright bass in arenas is tough, man. That's a tough.
Yeah, I know, right?
Tough to make it sound good, tough to play in tune, that whole thing.
Right.
But yeah, it's funny how the Buble thing that I've been doing the Buble thing since 2016. Yeah, I joined. Yeah.
Oh, damn. Okay.
So I joined Shakira in 2014, and then a couple of years later, it was the Buble audition.
Now, were you and Joe like trading off on Shakira, or did he come in right after you? Because I remember Joe was doing it for a minute, and then I heard you were doing it.
Joe was doing it. I took over for Joe for a few years, and then what was it? 2018. I was back with her, and she had a vocal issue, and she pushed the tour 6 months.
Okay.
And in that time, my wife got pregnant.
Oh, wow.
I had Joe come and do that tour.
Okay.
Yeah, so I could be home. And then I ended up going back with Buble. It all kind of worked out timing-wise.
Yeah.
Buble was starting up a few months after our kid would have been born, whereas Shakira would have been working through the
that's rough.
whole birth time and all that. So it just kind of worked out.
How'd you land Buble? Did you know the MD from another gig?
I knew the MD from college at USC, a dude named Alan Chang. And he basically just got me on the audition.
Nice.
And
who was doing it before you?
Before me, it was this dude named Craig. Can't remember his last name, but he did it for a long time. I think now, I don't know if he's playing a ton of bass now, or I don't really know what he's doing, but I think he's kind of moved on to do more production work.
Okay.
But he did it for a long time. I think he did it for like 10 years.
Wow.
So I auditioned, against a bunch of amazing bass players who
Sure.
I had no business being in the same room as. And I kind of got the down low that Buble was really looking for someone who was going to be animated on stage.
Okay.
So I just turned it up in the audition and shook my ass. And
yeah. Are you comfortable doing that? Like, I'm not comfortable doing that.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
Dude, I love letting loose. I love dancing.
Okay. All right.
Doing the whole thing. And it's like, it might be cheesy, but man, like, I honestly think that's a big part of like why I've done the gigs that I've done. It's like, it's the business we call show. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right. It's entertainment first, music
totally.
second. Yeah.
And like, you don't want to be look like an idiot up there, but like,
right.
if you are authentically having fun, everyone else can feel that.
Yeah, I think so. I'd agree with that. So you still writing?
Yeah.
How's that working? Are you just people coming to you for co-writes? Yeah. Are you writing tunes and selling tunes to artists? All the above?
Kind of all the above. It's like so Josh Kelly, like I said, kind of taught me how to write songs. He got me a publishing deal in Nashville where I was writing country songs for a few years, which was like, nice. That's songwriting boot camp.
Yeah.
3 songs a day, 5 days a week.
Okay.
So it's like, that's
shine some light on this, because I like country music, actually.
Yeah.
And every once in a while I check into like what's on the radio with it. And it's been going downhill really quick for quite a long time. Yeah. It seems like I'm almost convinced that they might be using AI, and they'll just type in a couple buzzwords like, okay, this year it's blue jeans, and like every tune has the same catchphrases, and I'm just like, this has to be what they're doing. Nashville is just using AI to pump out hits.
It's a very interesting thing. Like, I definitely don't want to like talk shit, but it definitely, country music, pop country music is for the masses.
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah, Big and Rich changed the game on that.
Well, yeah, dude. Yeah. And right now it feels like pop country music is just like, early 2000s rap music. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like like production wise, it's all very similar. It's really interesting which way music is going. And I think it's kind of indicative of all pop music, and it's just the way that things have moved. It's just like, well, technology has become so accessible that you don't have to be a musician to be able to make a song.
Right. And
that's been happening for a long time. And now the people who are having all the big hits are these people who are like, it's like I'll meet a producer at a party or whatever, and I'll be like, oh, cool. Like, what's your instrument? And they'll be like, oh yeah, no instrument. I'm a producer. Like, oh, so you don't, but like, what was your first instrument? Like, how did you discover music? They're like, no, just kind of Ableton. That's my thing. And it's oh, okay. So that's like the skill now, which is like, I'm not hating on it, because obviously it's working, because that's what these hit songs are doing. But technology has definitely put us in a place where it's like, you don't have to go to music school. You don't have to study, for years and years and years. And,
I don't think it's disheartening is what it is. Like, if you look at it from an industry standpoint, which I think what you were just doing, it's like, yeah, you don't have to, and you can just access writing hit songs without having to like have a craft on an instrument and do that thing. That kind of bums me out.
Yeah, I think it bums me out too. And I think that it's one of those things where it's like, don't hate the player, hate the game.
Sure. No, I definitely hate the game. Yeah.
But what we have at the end of the day is, like, it's one of those things, a lot of people kind of talk about, actually I have a friend who talks about this idea of like, okay, let's take a year. You learn to do what I do, and I'm going to learn to do what you do, and we'll see who gets further. Yeah. Okay. You know what I mean? And it's like, ultimately that's why someone like you, who could learn really easily how to produce a pop song in Ableton because of your musical background, you could do that if you wanted to, but you could also go play a gig or you could do a recording, or you could do a million other things because of your training. And ultimately, your longevity is going to be superior than anyone else, than any 21-year-old with a laptop who's,
just has this one thing.
Yeah.
That being said, I think anybody with a narrow focus has a short longevity. I mean, if you're just a player and you're crushing, that's still a narrow lane, given the fact that the music business, you have to be so diversified now.
100%. And that brings me back to, your question about like writing. Like, so, basically like between songwriting, producing, mixing, recording engineer, like whatever, like I'm just like, yes, I'm not going to be, I love it all. I want to do it all. I don't
Which one of those things are you most passionate about? Because I know some engineers like, mixing's my thing. I just kind of do the engineer, but like my heart lives in mixing. Or some people are like, no, I'm kind of in just like arranging it all. I want an engineer to choose mics. I just want to be the guy sitting on the couch, singing out parts and directing traffic. Which one really scratches the itch for you?
I mean, I think what I get the most joy out of is probably the songwriting aspect of it.
Okay.
I love, I just love creating stuff, and, there's joy in all of it. I mean, I love a vocalist in my booth and working out the emotion of
lyric,
the take, and then I love doing a great mix because it's like when you hear it sounds awesome. You're like, I did that, So I'm kind of all over the map. I'm not really. I don't love getting super technical or scientific about recording. That's just not where my heart lies. I've kind of always been the turn knobs until it sounds better guy.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I mean, over the, 20 years I've been doing it, like, I know what frequencies to pull out of a, vocal, it's like, but I definitely don't, like, I wouldn't be able to talk about it on a super highly technical level.
Okay.
And I almost like, I'm good with that. You know what I mean? It's kind of like the same way I envy my friends who know no music theory that are songwriters and they write amazing songs. And it's just like, you don't even know what you're doing. Your ears are just so great. Like I really envied that. And I don't know, at least I try to do that with recording, is just try and make it sound awesome. I try not to like go too deep on the technical thing, which is, could be bad. It could be good. In music, there kind of are no rules. So it's like, it is what it is. As long as it sounds good and it puts emotion in people and it moves people, that's all that matters.
Sure. What are some records like that for you? What are some timeless records that you can go back to and like always be moved by?
I mean,
take Elliott Smith off the table though. Like
I mean, Elliott's great. On the jazz side of things, man, any Oscar Peterson trio with Ray Brown, I'll still listen to that stuff all day.
Yeah, super.
That's just, I kind of never got past that in my jazz studies.
Man, I don't know. It's fascinating that you say that. I don't know if anybody does, like really gets past it. I was talking to Tony Garnier earlier today. He's Dylan's bass player.
Oh, cool.
So I did an interview with him. An upright guy. He took a lesson with Dave Holland, and Dave Holland's like, I still just check out Ray.
Yeah, that's
like
amazing.
Everybody's still just kind of.
It doesn't get any better to me. There's that video floating around Instagram or whatever where like Ray's talking about like, no one cares about how fast you can play or how fast you can solo. It's about like having a good tone and playing in tune and
doing your job.
Like, I've kind of just like lived my whole career on that. Like I'll never be the chops guy.
Yeah.
And, I'll never be that, the fancy bass guy, but like, I'll learn the shit out of your songs and I'll play them perfectly.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like
I mean, it's a funny thing because as a bass player, it's nice to see the advancements of the instrument and what really new techniques that have been added, and everybody kind of pushing the bounds of the instrument and stuff. But I do think at a certain point you lose the soul of the instrument if it gets too out in front. Like that's just not the role of the instrument. You know?
Agreed. And I love all these guys that are doing. I am such a huge fan.
No, I'm jealous of them all.
Dude,
I'm jealous of them all.
Joe Dart, Nick Campbell.
Yeah.
What's that other dude? Blanking on it. Another young guy who's amazing. They're all blow my mind, and I'll watch Nick Campbell videos all day.
Yeah, he sounds great.
So good. And I'm like, you know, I have to like accept like, all right, that may never be me. And I'm like, but that's cool because I'm gonna make me, and that's great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but I'm still a huge bass fan. You know what I mean? Yeah, so that's kind of like, as far as, you know, I feel like I have kind of like two sides of what I do. One is like the in the studio stuff, and the other stuff is like playing bass for people, which is
right.
And it's kind of interesting that like a lot of the people I work with in the studio don't even necessarily know that I do that. You know,
that's
it's kind of funny.
The quote unquote day job.
Yeah, I've kind of learned to keep them separate because it's been interesting to know. You know, it's like one of those things where it's like,
do you think that they'd pigeonhole you? Like if they knew who you were touring with, be like, oh, that's too jazzy. I don't want that sound.
I don't even think it's that. I think it's like songwriters want to work with songwriters.
Yeah.
And no, you know, it's like the drummer being like, hey, let's play my songs. It's like that kind of idea.
Right.
Where it's like, you know, I had to kind of like get up the totem pole and go through the ranks to become someone who can get into the room with like some of these heavier songwriters.
Mm-hmm.
Or producers, whatever. And I've kind of just gone with that and I've never used my bass status to get there.
Right.
And I think if I was trying to do that, people would just be like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just a different world. They're just two different worlds.
Sure.
You know what I mean? So that's one thing that's been interesting. And to be honest, like, yeah, I mean, luckily Buble is down to collaborate.
Okay.
And I've written some songs for his records, but when I met him, he didn't necessarily know me as a bass player. You know what I mean?
Really?
He knew me as like kind of a songwriter dude. And then
that's fascinating. So you auditioned for him, but he already had known of you as a songwriter guy?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you never really know.
Yeah. How they think of you. Yeah.
Or like if he even remembered who I was, you know what I mean? But it's it was really interesting because when I auditioned for him, he had a new record coming out that I actually had a couple songs on.
Okay.
But
oh, really?
Totally separate. And I was just kind of like a co-writer with some other writers. You know, I think he came into the room one time. So like we definitely were working together. But like, you know, yeah. I think he did at some point put it together and be like, oh, that's the guy who wrote the song. That's the single on the record. And maybe that pushed him over the edge to go, yeah, he should be on this tour. Obviously, we're pushing this song.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it was called Nobody But Me.
Okay.
That was like the name of the record. It was the first single. It was a really exciting time. And then unfortunately, his kid got sick and the whole tour was canceled.
Oof. What year was this? So you joined in 2018?
That was 2014, or was that?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was 2014.
Okay, so that's before you joined.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Full time.
No, that's 2016 when I joined. 16.
Okay.
2016. Yeah, sorry. I'm just trying to remember years. Yeah. That was 2016. That record came out, and you know he's still down to collaborate. I had a song that almost made it on the last record. It was a really cool song. Went in, got to work on it with him and Greg Wells, and it was totally cool. But you know, that's kind of.
What do you do with the tune if it doesn't land on his record? Do you still shop it?
You know, that's a good question. And, you know, I've had.
Or is there some loyalty there? Because, like, I mean, you guys have you know, professionally become closer since you're touring with him. So you're going to hold it for him?
Yeah, you know, that's it. I've had some other songs that he's recorded that haven't made it on records in the past.
Okay.
Over the years, you know. And we didn't do anything else with him.
Okay.
I think the idea is, you know, Warner Brothers wants to. I mean, here's the basically the thing is like, Warner Brothers paid to own, they own those masters. That's their masters. And they want to have the option down the road to do something with them if they decide the time is right.
Sure.
And it's always a possibility. You never know. Maybe for the next record, maybe for whatever. And
is there a statute of limitations on that?
There's not. It's just if you want to shop that song to someone else, you better hope that someone's going to be bigger than Buble, because if someone else puts it out, then most likely he won't. You know, I mean? Everyone wants to have the exclusive.
Of course, yeah.
So it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, it's probably smarter just to leave it with him. And it's like, you know, there's no shortage of songs, right?
Right.
So we can just write more and pitch those ones and pitch more to him. And just, it's kind of one of those things where it's just like, you know, you just kill your darlings. It's like, you know, I've written probably over 1,000 songs in the last 10 to 20 years, and 98% of them have done nothing. You know what I mean? It's just kind of one of those things. And it's like,
are they still sitting on a hard drive somewhere?
Yeah. Got them. You know, ready to go. You never know. I mean, sometimes old songs will have a new life years and years later. And then sometimes I still have freaking Christmas songs that get into a Lifetime movie every year. You know, the same song over and over again. You know, it's just like some dumb Christmas song you wrote in like 10 minutes. You know what I mean?
Perfect.
So it's just one of those things where it's just like, you just never know. And, you know, the songwriting game is such a spec thing. And, you know, now that I have a kid, it's a lot harder to make the time to just do these spec gigs. So I've kind of turned more into trying to work more for a day rate, doing the touring thing, opening up my studio to clients, and being an engineer. You know, I do a lot of like vocal recording over here for random people. And, you know, it's all good. And I still have a publishing deal with Cobalt, which is I signed with them when that Buble single came out. And, you know, I've been doing a lot of stuff for film and TV. And,
you've been writing for that?
Over the pandemic, I was,
sick.
I just did like, you know, a lot of random stuff. I did a commercial for, Panda Express. Nice. Over the pandemic, I did a bunch of short films with my buddy Nick Jacobson, who's a film composer. And one of those films won an Oscar.
Oh, damn.
You know, and it's just like, cool. You know, first time scoring films. Oh, it's so easy. You just win an Oscar.
No big deal. Where do you go from there? All right, just scratch that itch. Next.
Unfortunately.
Write a musical. Let's do it. Sure. Yeah. Straight to the Tony.
Unfortunately, the composers don't get the Oscar unless it's for like best, you know, score or whatever.
You don't, do you get anything?
Yeah. No, but I mean, you know, I got to post it on my Instagram.
Yeah, I mean, it's a solid post. That's worth it.
Totally.
What was the movie?
It was called The Queen of Basketball. It was about the first female basketball player drafted in the NBA.
Oh.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
The 70s.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How long did that career last?
Not long.
I've never even heard about this.
Yeah. It's a whole thing. Well, there's a documentary. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, dude. I'm curious.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Did you like that process more? Like writing to a picture lock or a story that was already told? All you had to do was enhance the story instead of telling the story?
I do really like writing to picture. I think it's really cool. A lot of the stuff, I mean, not to like ruin behind the curtain for everybody, but like, you know, a lot of it has a temp score, and your job is to recreate the temp score, but make it make sense. Cause it's like all these non-musicians are doing edits. So there's like random cuts in the middle of whatever. And so you make it into a thing that flows, and you get as close to that as possible without getting sued. You know, that's kind of the job, and that's the skill set, which is still challenging and fun. And, you know, I love hanging out in my studio, and anything that keeps me in here I'm happy to do, you know.
Does doing all these different projects really scratch the creative itch, or are you still like
Yeah,
Kind
absolutely.
of Jones in to get your own project done. Have you ever done your own project?
I have. And yeah, I've been working on I have my own moniker called Nitwit that I put music out under.
Okay.
And I have a couple records out there in the world, and I'm always working on more, about to release a new thing, and I'm always
Do you
trying
do
to,
everything on these? Is this
yeah,
some like Prince?
play everything myself, record
Nice.
everything, write everything, mix everything,
Okay.
master everything, this is like my project for me.
Yeah,
That,
yeah, yeah.
the only, it's just supposed to be like, totally
Labor of love vibe.
self-satisfying. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Not trying to like do, bend it in any way to satisfy any kind of whatever. And like on occasion, something happens with it. I got a song on the, in a TV show, and random things like that will happen from time. And it's like, wow, amazing. That all worked, like icing on the cake. Cause I just did it for the labor of love. And if someone wants to use it, it's even better.
Man, I'm sure you get asked a lot because like there's so many people, as you know, out here in LA trying to get into that thing, trying to just write and get a tune placement, like TV's the new radio basically.
Yep.
So if you can get a
100%.
placement, you can make all this money, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure everybody asks you how you got into it. Like, I mean, you told me that Josh Kelly hooked you up with a deal and everything, but it's what advice would you give to those people about that hustle?
It's just like everything else. It's just all about relationships.
Yeah.
And you kind of just over the years, you get to know people in the industry, and they're like, you should meet this person and you should whatever. It's one of those things where like it needs to happen organically, and it takes a long time.
Right.
And it's just like, it's not
on a genuine level, just really building
level.
Like this person's cool, let's hang. Yeah.
Like the music supervisor at NBC is one of my best friends, and like, and other music supervisors that I met, just get close with, and some of them you don't, and they don't necessarily call you for stuff, but the ones you are do, and it's just one of those things where it's just like, eventually you have enough relationships where you can keep your 7 days of the week kind of filled up with different things.
Nice.
And I've always kind of been the guy with that, like, I don't love, like we said, I don't love doing one thing. In fact, I hate the idea of doing one thing.
Sure.
And like, some may argue that I'm spread too thin, and that jack.
Do you feel like you are?
None.
Do you feel like you are at times, or because I think it all depends on perspective, and really the only one that matters in this is yours because it's your life and your career.
Right.
Do you get concerned that you're spread too thin, or does each one cause you to kind of level up in a new way that feeds the whole?
I think it's the latter. Yeah. Me personally. And like, honestly, what it does for my own soul is just, that's the big takeaway. It's just like, I love learning new stuff, and I love like mastering a new skill. I never like, of course, cause it's like a million different things. I'll never like be the expert, but it's like, you don't really need to be. You can just do the stuff that makes you happy, and like, and I find that like doing something different every day that's what keeps me happy. You know? And
how is getting into the studio thing and the production and the mixing, how has that made you rethink or relearn what you learned in jazz school?
That's a good question.
Because those are two very different approaches to play.
100%, 100% different. The best thing that I learned in jazz school that I think I figured out too late, I wasn't great at it in jazz school, but I studied with John Clayton. Who's still like, my dude. Like, love that guy to death. And he kind of just taught me how to like work at something until it was good.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And like that, I think, was the big kind of takeaway from school. It was like not learning how to play bass, but learning how to figure things out.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like,
stick with it until you
it's like
feel it's honed. It's
all a part of the thing. Now, like, I was kind of, when I was in jazz school, I was kind of fooling everybody. Like, I came in, I was like the hot shot dude. I went to an arts magnet high school for jazz too. So I was like already kind of like.
Which one?
Loxa.
Okay.
Yeah, Los Angeles County High School for the Arts.
Yeah.
And I was already kind of a few steps ahead of the other bass players coming in, and I was like the dude, I came in as a freshman. I was in the A band and like all that stuff.
Right. You're like
all
the young lion on the.
Yeah. And everybody thought I was like, whatever. And except John Clayton fucking knew that it was all bullshit. And I really had none of my shit together. You know what I mean? And he was, he totally called me out on that stuff. And honestly, I don't think I ever really got it together for him, but the skills that he gave me then, like now I know how to do my homework. You know what I mean? Like I don't think I ever showed up to a lesson having put my 100% into it.
Really?
But now I know how to do that. You know what I mean? So I think that's like, that was what I learned from college, but I probably learned it maybe, 10 years after I graduated.
Right.
I was like, oh, that's what he was trying to teach me. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, because I remember hearing about John's curriculum, and it's like we get requests. Like that was his thing. It's just like learn this whole record, which is a great record to learn. Like everything you need to learn is on that record.
Well, it's interesting because we would do, basically the John curriculum was, legit, classical stuff, and then transcribing, starting with Ray Brown.
Sure.
And then you kind of move on to other guys after you kind of do enough Ray.
Yeah.
That's where we start. I never moved away from Ray. That's just like talking about. But that was his thing. And it was just like only transcribing, writing out bass lines, memorizing solos. And that was it.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like, well, what are we going to learn? Like sweet, like.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to learn all the flashy stuff.
And it's like, what am I going to learn all the chops, and it's like, was not the lessons. And like, it's one of those things where it's like, now you appreciate it so much. At the time, it was like, this is hard. Like, oh,
like this is the worst part of it all.
I'm so sick of transcribing, and I suck at classical music. You know what I mean? It's just like one of those things.
How long did you stick with that? I love classical music, and I love the bass and the bass repertoire for it all. I just don't have the time to dedicate to it that I would love to, but I love that stuff.
I love it too. And I kind of keep trying to get back into it. And it's like, I have my buddy who I was doing the film scores with, he does a lot of conducting work, and he always tries to get me on his session. So I've been doing some orchestra sessions, just like a handful a year.
Yeah.
I'm always scared to death. And like, luckily, Mike Valerio is the sweetest man in the world.
I met him and I was like maybe 2 weeks ago. It's this Mexican spot right by Fox, and he got done with the session, and I was interviewing him for Bass Magazine, and we hung for like 3 hours. He's such a sweetheart. He's a sweetheart.
He's the best. And honestly, I was so intimidated one of the first sessions I did with him, and he was just so cool.
Yeah.
I've gone over to his house a few times. He lets me check out his basses and his bows. We're supposed to get together, and I'm supposed to, bring a bunch of bows over. I'm supposed to buy a new bow,
Okay.
I just haven't gotten around to it. Also would love to.
Hold on. I'm supposed to sounds like it was homework. Like someone gave you this job to fulfill.
I've had the same bow since high school, and it just sucks. It's just like,
if you want to start doing the pro work, like get some pro gear vibe. Yeah,
totally. And I've been, I know it's just going to make my classical life better. But yeah, that's on the list. I also would love to either put an extension on my bass or find an orchestral bass. It's one of those things. It's like, I
was talking to dudes in that scene, and like, you like everybody, you need an extension. Like if you don't have one, go get one, and then we'll throw your name in the hat. But like, get the extension first.
Yeah, you can't show up to an orchestra session without.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what I kind of learned. It's like,
okay,
everything for bass now is written below an E. You know? What I mean?
That's crazy.
I'm not sure. I'm sure not everything, but like, anything that's film scorey or anything that's
right. Get all the way down there. Yeah.
Want scary low sounds,
Open C. Done.
So yeah, that's kind of on the list. So yeah, to answer your question, like, no, I didn't take it super far. I'm really good at faking it. And, I anytime I'm in those situations, it's so humbling, and I walk in being scared to death and I walk out feeling amazing. And it's just,
Okay.
it's something I definitely want to keep doing, but I need to like dedicate some time and some money to like up in my classical.
Investing in going that direction.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah. What are you currently working on? How many projects you have in the can at the studio?
Working on a couple records for other people. One is with this dude named Isaac Corin, who is this amazing singer, like beautiful Australian dude. And he's just like, we're actually doing a jazz record, but
nice.
It's kind of not a typical jazz record. It's all kind of like down tempo, excuse me, down tempo, like trailery kind of music, So
it's really cinematic.
Yeah. That's kind of the
vibe. What's he play?
He's just a vocalist, and he's just amazing. And he wanted to do a jazz record, and I was kind of just like, what's going to make me excited about doing a jazz record? And I kind of pitched this idea. It's like, well, at the end of the day, I'm like, hey man, if you want to do a jazz record, like, you should call Jason Goldman or one of these guys who's a big band orchestrator or whatever. Like, if you want to do a legit jazz record, but I have an idea for us if you're down. And he was like, cool. And we're doing this thing. And now we're like 10 songs in and it sounds awesome.
Oh, damn. What's the instrumentation?
It's all kind of like in the box, but like some live drums, some live upright bass, a couple other live features. But a lot of it is like kind of like, more on the electronic tip,
Okay. Like the first record, I had 2 records come to mind. Like, come to mind, but I blank on the damn title. What's the one Meldau did where it was kind of electronic?
The Largo.
Yeah, that was Largo. Okay. And then the Kurt Rosenwinkel one. Hardcore? I think it was Hardcore.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of programming on it.
Totally. This is kind of more like almost like in the Portishead kind of vibe, or like,
Okay.
Or even like Radioheady, OK Computer.
Super Lounge. Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. Or we even pulled from, remember those, what were they called? Those like 90s Blue Note remixes that they did. They're all like kind of hip hop versions of like 90s Blue Note too.
Oh, yeah.
Like we were listening to some of that stuff for inspiration too.
Okay.
So that kind of stuff. It's going to be super cool. And he's just like an incredible vocalist. I mean, just on another level. So doing that, work on another record for some friends I did a record for years ago, and always doing like new projects with different songwriters, just things for pitch.
Yeah.
And then my own stuff, and then like random clients who want to just like rent out my studio for the day. You know what I mean?
Nice. Do you trust him? Aren't you nervous? Do you know him, or like do you have to sign all this paperwork? Like,
it's usually I'm here engineering, or I'll hire someone I know to engineer.
Okay, so you're never completely hands off. For like, it's unlocked, just lock it up.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, usually it's totally. Yeah, and, it's kind of, I don't know how they do it at commercial studios, but like, if someone came into my studio and to try to figure out my patch bay and all that, it's like, I would have to spend a couple hours teach them how to use it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think like even when you go to studios and you want to bring in your own engineer, you still have to pay for theirs because they know the room, they know the rig, totally. Which makes total sense. And then they can just tell whoever you bring in to deal with it.
100%. Yeah.
What was I going to say? Well, I'm curious about your mic locker for upright basses. What do you use for your upright?
I use the Flea 47.
Okay.
Which is basically it's like the 2-spec 1950s U47.
Yeah.
So I love doing the Flea right in front of the bridge, and then I'll use
like totally on axis, because a lot of times when I've gone into sessions, they'll put it just like on the treble side F hole, kind of off axis just a little.
Right between there and the bridge, kind of.
Yeah.
Totally. And then I'll put like a pencil mic. right at where the neck meets the body to get the sound.
Okay.
And it's kind of like all the high end, and the 47 gets all the low end. I always have the 47 going through a Neve 1073 with some EQ help, and then the pencil mic going through an API to get more of like a punchier, brighter tone, and kind of mix those together. I usually mix the fingerboard mic down a little bit, and depends on the
vibe of the tune. Yeah.
I also recently got an old K bass.
Oh, really?
And I found this awesome K on Craigslist for $300.
Oh, damn.
And then I took it to Lisa and then put another $1,000 into it, of course.
Yeah.
But the bass is awesome, and I put guts on it, and that sound is like totally.
Is that going on that down tempo? Is it that sound?
Yeah, some of that stuff. Totally. Yeah. Anything that's like kind of country or bluegrass.
Yeah.
It's all thump, no sustain.
Right.
It's that total thing. And so now I have like my nice bass and that bass. And so it just kind of like depends on the project, like how lo-fi and greasy they want it, or how like, high-endy and, pure they want it. And that kind of depends on like the mic mix too, between the two mics.
Right.
I mean, like if you just need that low-end stuff, it's just all 47. And if you want a lot of detail, like a modern jazz record, then it's like you get that neck mic up in the mix too,
Right.
But I got to work with a Capital a bunch with Al Schmidt, and his whole thing was that kind of the neck mic and the body mic, and that it's like super game changing.
I can't remember where I heard it, but maybe it was a guest on the podcast, maybe it was someone when I was doing the session. But some legendary engineer, and it's really terrible that I'm forgetting all the important details of this, but the detail I remember is they would put a mic right by where their ear was.
Yeah.
So they're trying to capture how the bass player heard the bass.
That's an interesting trick. I know they do that a lot with like acoustic guitar too. It's a totally interesting idea. I may have tried that a couple times. I think it all depends on the recording,
Sure.
It's like, it's like there's always like the mic locker thing is interesting. Like if you're playing an acoustic guitar and it's just like acoustic guitar and vocal on a track, use the 47. It will sound giant on the acoustic. But if it's in a mix, you want something that's going to cut all that low end out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know that much about that, like the whole mix thing. I'm doing my record right now.
Oh, cool. What are you doing?
It's mainly tunes I wrote. It's like nerd jazz. It's total nerd jazz. Odd meter shit.
Oh, it's great. Who's on it?
It's me, Nick Mancini, Chris Wabich, and Brian Walsh.
Oh,
playing bass clarinet.
Amazing.
So like, like before I went into the studio, like the engineer was this guy named Dan Cole.
Yeah.
You know Dan?
Yeah.
Okay, so went over there. Like Dan and I had played a lot together, and like, all right, man, we're just like checking out records, and he's asking me questions, and like, I don't know, like I don't know how to set up mics for what the mix is gonna be. So like that was the whole thing. Like we're checking out different records. I'm like, Dave Douglas's The Infinite has bass clarinet on it. I like the sound of that. Let's pull that up.
Yeah.
Pull that up. He's like, dude, there's no low end on this. I'm like, oh shit, I've never really listened to this on legit monitors. It's crazy. It's a whole different world that I purposely don't get into because that's a deep rabbit hole.
It really is, man. It's also it's one of these things I never thought I would be into, and then you just kind of, it's really from doing my own stuff where it was just like, the goal of my own music was not just to like, just essentially just to get better at everything. Like,
right.
I want to be a better songwriter. I want to be a better singer. I want to be a better bass player. I want to be a better guitar player. I want to be a better drummer. I want to be a better engineer, and I want to be a better mixer. And, it's all kind of, the whole point is the process. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I've had people be like, why do you get like you're friends with so many amazing musicians? Why don't you have them play on it? And it's like, yeah, that might be a thing too, to satisfy whatever that time is. But right now it's just about like me just trying to understand how these instruments work and how they work, mix. And I just, I'll do like literally 1,000 drum takes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, because I suck at drums, but after 1,000 takes, I can have a really great comp together. And
but I feel like in 5 years, if you started like hiring drummers, you know exactly how to speak to them. Not that you already didn't,
totally,
from being a rhythm section player, but the fact that you've done the job informs you in a whole new way as an engineer and producer, which I think is invaluable.
Exactly. I think that's really important as a producer to know how all the instruments work. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's another thing, like back to what we were talking about before, about like these guys who are producers and they're like just working in Ableton, like, what happens if they want to produce a record with real musicians? I mean, they probably wouldn't, but like, you know what I mean? Like, what happens then? And that's why we do this work. I know one thing that was really interesting to me, I was having a conversation with my publisher at Cobalt, and they were sending me artists, and we were kind of talking about strategy, and they were just like, listen, every 21-year-old with a laptop is out there producing pop music.
Right.
We want you to be like the real instrument guy. Like, let us send you singer-songwriters.
Okay.
Because everyone can do the pop music thing, but not everyone can do the real instrument. So we want you to be our resource for that. And I was like, yeah, wow. Because I was trying to do pop music too.
Right.
Except for I'm just like a little bit older and don't know the, I'm not listening to pop radio that much, but I'm like, well, I just want to be relevant. So maybe I should be doing pop music. But it was kind of like really eye-opening about just like, yo, man, like do what you're good at. Like do what you know. And I was just like, oh, snap. Like I still love pop music, but I just like, I'm just kind of like committed to this angle of.
I think it's cool, man. It seems like it uses, connects all your worlds. So it's pretty cool,
Totally.
It's got to be a pretty encouraging place to be. Is like you're getting called to utilize the skills that you've developed.
Right.
That's the shit.
I love that idea, but yeah, and it's funny how the bass kind of sparked it all too, you know what I mean? Like it's just everything, it feels like it's built from the ground up on the bass. Sure. Like, I mean, it is, but also like that's how I look at when I'm
all
producing.
The other things, yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's funny because like usually I'll record bass last on everything.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Like I kind of like save that for last and let, it's like I almost, the process of everything going first and letting the bass be the glue that makes everything work together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I feel that's got to change your playing approach, because now unless you know what the bass is going to be doing and you have an idea for a line, so you can like leave that space carved out for it, or you're just utilizing the space that's left over.
I think it's more that because I'm most proficient on bass. I can kind of figure out then how to complete everything with the bass.
Sure.
As opposed to if I feel like if I started with the bass, it would be like too busy and too whatever. Right. You know what I mean? It's that whole thing about like.
Or you're trying to force some bass thing.
Yeah, and that's the danger of being a bass player.
Right.
It's not like you're like, I'm so good at bass.
Yeah.
I got this idea. And you're like, all right, well, does that really serve the song? Or, that whole thing. So
sure.
It's interesting how it's kind of like, the bass is the glue that puts it all together. But at the same time, I'm kind of like forcing myself to almost do less unless it needs it, kind of a thing on the bass out of like fear of I never want people to be like, oh, this was obviously produced by a bass player.
Yeah, right. What do you write on? Guitar,
piano. Yeah.
Okay. Did you go back and like get your piano chops together?
What's funny? I actually started on piano. Piano was my first instrument, and I've always like been able to get around on piano pretty good.
Okay.
And guitar, to be honest. Like I was a guitar player before I was a bass player. I started when I was like 13. I was in a band, and there were two guitar players and a drummer, and I was the shittier guitar player. So
That's how it works. Yeah.
And
That's how it
I,
always works.
you know, on bass for the rest of my life. You know.
Yeah. What are those guys doing? Are they still on the scene?
Yeah, actually,
Really?
I think they both are. Yeah, they both are. One of the dudes is like a singer-songwriter. He has like some stuff going on. His name's David Rosales. He was the singer of the band, and the drummer is named Ty Gaddis, and I think he plays with like a metal band that's like doing really well or something.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, but everyone's still doing it, you know.
That's hilarious.
But yeah, and my dad was a bass player, so he had his 1975 P bass in the house growing up, and so I played that all through junior high and high school. And
75, that was a tank, wasn't it?
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, literally played it yesterday. I was over there yesterday, and it's like it's got to weigh 10 or 11 pounds.
Yeah. Oof. What's your electric when you go out?
I have a Mulan on the road.
Okay.
P? Mulan P that I love. It's so great. It reminds me of my 66 P.
Man, those really hit the scene like what, maybe 6-8 years ago?
Yeah.
I did like everybody in LA was like playing those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know where they came from, but I just remember them like everybody was either gonna buy one or had bought one.
Yeah. They kind of like, you know who kind of put them on the scene was Tim.
Tim, yeah, I figured. I remember he had one.
Yeah, he had it. He loved it. He knew those guys, and they're in Korea. And they're just amazing handmade instruments. I ended up getting like a 5-string jazz bass and a P bass from them. And then I'm actually playing a Stingray on the road.
Okay.
5-string Stingray Classic.
All right. 34?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's a cool bass. I really love it. It's pink.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Like bright, obnoxious pink.
It's
like kind of like a
pink.
soft, like little fluffy cotton candy.
It's like shell pink with a tort guard. It's pretty cool.
Okay. That's it. That's it.
Sounds awesome. I love it. I always kind of wanted one, and the Buble gig, you kind of need a 5-string.
Okay.
And like a P bass for the old Motown-y stuff.
Yeah.
So I have both of them up there, and that
I was actually looking. I've been looking at 5-string PJs like the last couple of months, kind of for that same reason. For when I go out with that dude, like for the Motown thing, you need the P sound, but you need a 5-string.
Yep.
So I've been checking those out, and there's not a lot of companies that make 5-string PJs.
No, it seems like it would be kind of the best of both worlds, and there's also like 5-string P basses that are cool. And I think actually Mulan makes one. But I've found, now this is super nerdy, but like,
no, I'm interested that me and Valerio talked about this actually. I'm curious to hear, maybe you've talked to him about the one he just bought. Yeah,
he did. He says that he says it's not a P bass.
He didn't like the pickups.
Yeah. He's like, I love the bass, but it's not a P bass.
Yeah.
So, I have found that because I've thought about like, well, is there one bass that I can play for the whole Buble gig, or even when I was with Shakira for the Shakira gig, because it was a similar basses for that, and I've just found that like part of the sound of the P bass that we love has to do with the tension on the neck, and a 5-string P bass. Even if it's like everything is spec'd exactly the same as a 4-string P bass, the 4-string P bass sounds different, and it's because of like the strings, the weight, and the tension pulling on the neck.
Sure,
you know what I mean. The way the strings react is different on the 4-string, and that's what's like. Yeah, you just got to have that thing.
Like you're not going to get the old sound.
You're not going to get that sound.
It's going to sound too clean because there's more tension.
Totally.
Just by the nature of the other string, right?
And it's going to feel different because of the tension, which is going to make you play different, which is
of course. Yeah.
So like, I'm just like, you know what? Have a couple basses out there.
Right. What do you do for the upright situation? Do you have a flyaway?
Buble owns a bass. It's an old K.
Okay.
And it's a great old K. So it's crazy. I have 2 pickups on it and a microphone.
Oh, damn.
So it has a Realist, an Underwood, and one of those clip-on mics, and I have a little Aguilar rig up there so I can monitor myself.
Okay.
So my pedal board looks hilarious. It's literally on the upright, so it's upright and electric all in one pedal board.
Yeah.
And so the electric side is an AB box and a tuner and a Sands amp, and that's it. And then the upright side is literally 2 tuners for the mutes for each pickup, and then a 3rd tuner that's on all the time.
Okay.
So if you can't, because playing bass upright in big arenas is not.
Yeah.
So if I need to like check my pitch or whatever, like I have a tuner that's always on. So I have literally 4 tuners on my pedal board. It's pretty hilarious.
Dude, have you ever checked out the Trickfish stuff?
Yeah, and
man, their AB box is like, that's the shit for when I go out. I have the electric and the upright, like the Trickfish, dual channel AB, a tuner and a volume pedal.
Yeah.
The best.
I got to check the fit. I know they're amps, but I didn't know they were making boxes.
Yeah, they're doing boxes, and like apparently they're making onboard pre's now, like where you can take the chrome plate off a jazz bass and it's already preloaded with their preamp.
Wow.
Like J Retro was doing that, or started doing that years ago.
Amazing.
With their preamp. Yeah, I haven't checked that out yet. Yeah, but I'm a big fan of their company.
There's a dude. What's the dude's name? Oh, I'm blanking. The guy who works at Vibrato, great bass player.
Oh yeah, Hussein. So
he told me, he turned me on a Trickfish.
Yeah. Dude, when we get off, I'll text you.
Okay.
I'll introduce you to Justin.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah, he'll probably hook you up. It's they're great stuff. And that AB box is
that's
shit.
Great. It's amazing.
Dude, thanks for doing this, man. Thanks for taking the time. Yeah.
Of course,
send me some stuff, dude. I want to hear what you're producing.
I will.
All right.
I'll shoot you some Nitwit stuff.
All right, killing, dude. We'll be in touch.
All right, man. Talk soon.
All right, thanks, Eric. All right. That was my talk with Erik Kertes. There used to be like a performance of Buble on Netflix that Kertes was on. Erik Kertes was on. I don't know if that's still on there or not. I remember seeing that a few years ago. I apologize, Eric. I didn't watch it. No, I don't think that really affects you that much that I didn't, but I meant to, and you're gonna be like, hey, my boy Eric. I did not do it. I probably ended up watching some true crime documentary or like the thing about OJ again. I got obsessed OJ all over again when all that stuff. But check that out. If you have Netflix and you watch live music performances, it may still be on Netflix. That is Mr. Erik Kertes on bass. The man who is doing all things music, songwriting, production, and playing with the biggest stars and doing the biggest tours. Erik Kertes. All right, if you are enjoying the Bass Shed podcast, please hit subscribe wherever you are listening to it. That's about all I got for this one, folks. All I got. I will catch you on the next one in a minute.